Good afternoon and welcome to part 5 of 8, which I will be reading from my biography. Today I would like to share a part of my journey which was very private, was also very intimate before my book was published. Along the way it can get a bit frisky, it can get very spicy. It's all within the boundaries of reading and people who are sitting and wishing to hear about it. So that choice will be purely yours when I come to certain stages, what I'm going to read today. But like I said, it's all within the boundaries. It's things that happen in life. It's things that as adults we shouldn't really be embarrassed about. And I'm not at all embarrassed. It was a beautiful part of my life. So Lisa was my first introduction to meeting a real trans woman. She had become an open at a workplace and had started hormone treatment. But hormone therapy all came out over the time. It was a subject that was never really talked about in the 90s, 91, and a bit later on. However, this was one hell of a journey, and what a beautiful person and what a beautiful woman that became a part of my life. In the clubs and pubs, it's hard to identify trans women at that time in the 90s. You had a mixture like today. Every person under the rainbow flag, a lot of drag queens, a lot of transvestites. Drag queens are people unto themselves. They are such beautiful people. Their makeup was awesome. Transvestites dressed in their own style. Their aim seemed to be to get your attention and be very forthcoming in their advances and what they were looking for. And not at all shy, but again, beautiful people. I had many fun nights flirting, but that's as far as it went. In the 90s, I had a fantastic body and great legs. My hair had grown back after quitting the military, but not as long as when I was a teenager, and more brown and not blonde. So mini skirts and flimsy tops revealing the navel area and being flirtatious was more to my taste. My meeting Lisa came by chance. It wasn't the pubs or the clubs. It was a private party with transvestites, lesbians, drag queens, gay guys, bi people. It didn't really matter. It was just fun and a great evening. I was doing the decks, still learning, thinking I was the world's best female DJ. Leeds and a lot of big cities were not safe to go out dressed. So you would find your own space, you would change, make up, and the weekend would begin. There was a lot of common knowledge at the time about queer bashing, and sadly, it still happens today. The night started, as always, outrageous and full of energy, and full of people who just love people. No violence, no hatred, just people in love with each other. There was always one who had the disco ball and the cheap lights. And when I look back now, they were some really, really great nights. I didn't notice Lisa had come to the party. Why should I? I'd never met her. There were many people in the house. Lights were dimmed, the disco lights in full swing. The first time I met her was when she was standing at the side of me, talking to me, and I couldn't hear a word she was saying. but a smile broke the ice. I moved away to the side and asked her what she had said. She asked me if I had a tune she liked, but I'd never heard of this tune. I remember her saying, "What sort of DJ are you?" With a cheeky smile, "One that's still learning," I replied. "But I've got some good hard German house music if you like that." I don't think that appealed to her taste, but she didn't say no. I noticed in an instant her dress code was completely different. It was very natural, no heavy makeup. She looked feminine and she had mousy brown hair, shoulder length, and looked as if she'd used curling tongs to create curls and her hair. And then she disappeared into the party. By now, I was desperate. I had lost contact, breaking my neck to follow and make eye contact, but she was nowhere to be seen. The night progressed as usual. Then I could see her talking to people. She knew friends, so it was time to make an introduction and head for the kitchen and to get a can of Newcastle Brown. On the way, I gestured with a hand signal. "Do you want a drink?" She nodded yes and pointed to the kitchen as a gesture. To my surprise, she followed me. She had a lager and I took my usual Nuki Brown. "Cheers, what's your name?" "Lisa, and you?" "Samantha." It was just small talk about the party and if she was enjoying it. Did she have a lot of friends there that evening? A few, but not many. She asked me how long I'd been a DJ. I think I replied something like 8 months. "You need to buck your ideas up," she said with a smile. I loved her cheeky humour. I just smiled back and said something cheesy like, "You're just jealous." I asked her if she was staying long at the party. She wasn't too sure. "Any chance of a chat with you before you go?" "Maybe." I thought she had an attitude, but I loved it. The night was moving on to the late hours. She actually came to say goodnight. She was going home. I didn't expect that. I thought she would just disappear into the night, never to be seen again. And I really needed this girl's number, or at least a date. So I asked her, "Do you have a phone number?" "I do." "Can I have it and give you a ring tomorrow?" "No." "Are you serious?" "Yeah, I don't know you." "I know, but I want to get to know you." To which she replied, "Those that want don't always get." I was absolutely stunned. Either she was not interested or she was just playing hard to get. I couldn't work it out, but I loved her attitude. Pubs, clubs, any tips where we might cross paths? The usual pubs around the corn market, around the exchange. "How you getting home? It's late." "The taxi will be here in about 5 minutes." "Well, it was nice talking to you, Lisa. Oh, one thing. Are you always this hard to pull?" "Well, it depends on the person. You do have beautiful eyes." "So I believe. I hear it often." I don't, but she didn't know that. And then, when I hoped the taxi had broken down, it turned up like a bad apple. "Catch you later, brown eyes." It's like, my God. This girl knows how to flirt and get another girl's attention. That was flirting and seducing at the same time. I just loved it. I should have said, "I have come to bed, eyes." A bit slow off the mark there, Samantha. Weeks come and go, as they do, without a sign of Lisa. One thing I found out was she wasn't a clubbing girl. She was mainly into pubs but either she had moved or was just living a quiet life and holding near to close friends. Time was moving on, and the hope of meeting Lisa again were fading away into the distance like a bad dream. I carried on my life and had visits from Mum. We would go out and catch up on things again. My father never really came into the picture or the conversations. There was no need to, really. No love lost between us. I was getting more and more into my music and getting good at doing my small private parties without getting paid large amounts of money, but enough to buy food, records, and small things that I needed. A few months had passed by, 2, 3, 4 months. It was a Saturday, and I was thinking a night out in the town. Nothing big or heavy, just meeting up with friends, catching up on gossip like you do. Lisa was now far out of my thoughts. I'm waving it off just as a flirty night, but nevertheless fun and nice talking to her. Her attitude grabbed my attention, just different from others I would meet and talk to. We had been in a few pubs and moved on. It wasn't late, maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock. We went to the next pub, found a table. We got our drinks and carried on with the night. I was hoping she would walk through the door, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't thinking that. Last orders came. We ordered another drink, and then it was time to call it a night and get some fish and chips and a taxi home. I never walked home as Samantha. I took no chances where that was concerned. The fish and chip shops and taxi ranks were situated around the core market and the exchange. So in that area, you were pretty safe. I was standing in line to order my fish and chips, and I saw who I thought was Lisa. So I broke ranks, stuck my head out the door like a giraffe, and called her name, and had no response. I called louder. It was her. I couldn't believe it. Hello, brown eyes. Like nothing had happened. What are you doing? Well, I'm having a barbecue. What does it look like I'm doing? I'm buying a fish supper and I'm going home. Do you want a fish supper? Nah. But I'd love a bag of chips with scraps, salt and vinegar. I couldn't believe it. I felt dumbstruck. She just turned up out the blue. We left the chip shop and went to the taxi rank. I asked her, what you doing now? Well, I'm like you, I'm going home. I was like, come back to my place, have a coffee. You can crash on the sofa. No funny business. I know you love my eyes. I make great coffee or PG Tips tea. We can warm the fish supper up in the oven. Come on, I don't bite. I was actually expecting her to say no, but she said, okay. I didn't live far out of the city, 20 minutes, 15 on a good night. The journey home was just small talk, radio leads in the background from the taxi, small talk with the driver, had he had a busy night, many customers. His wife didn't enjoy him working nights, but he had to earn a living. The journey went quickly. Before we knew it, we were at my place. I gave him a little tip and wished him good night and to stay safe. Have fun, girls, he replied. We're just friends. He just smiled and went on his next journey. First thing I did was to get the oven on and get the fish suppers in and warmed up. Make yourself at home, Lisa. Throw your feet up. Would you like a tea, a coffee, The stereo button, just press the on and choose your music and chill out. I went into the lounge and threw myself in a chair, both legs over the armchair. So, tell me, Scarlet Pimpernel, where have you been hiding for the last 2, 3, 4 months? Surprise me. She had just been living, doing the usual things, work, being at home, time with a doctor, her shrink, as she called him, but very happy and just leading a quiet life in general and keeping a low profile. Do you want HP sauce with your chips and scraps? She just winked at me, and I took that as a yes, and off I went to the kitchen. Have you got any bread, Samantha? I feel like a good chip butty. Where do you think you are, Blackpool? Yes, I can fix it. How many slices? Just 2, and not too much butter. Would you like me to fan you while you're eating them, Lisa? Just say, it's not a problem. Thanks, Brown Eyes. I was thinking, I hope this name isn't going to stick, but just run with it. For a Saturday night, it was early, 00:45 in the morning, so I knew Lisa wasn't going home tonight. But I had a good sofa, and that fish supper was smelling good. The bread was done, the sauce was there, and the cuppa was made, and I went into the lounge. She looked really good that night. She was a jeans girl, plain blouse and sneakers, nice makeup, not heavy to the eye, and well-kept hair. To me, that seemed to be a focus point with her appearance, and it worked for me. And she was really beautiful, slim, not tall, 5'7", unusual, but carried everything so well. So what do you do for a living? Thinking, start as you mean to go on. Maybe she will drop the brown eyes. I work taking orders for British Rail intercity trains. The big yellow front panels below the driver are made of fiberglass. Windows that are made from fiberglass and resin with mesh in between, each layer shatterproof. So you're an office girl then? Notepad and pen at the ready? She just smiled. I guess so. You can call it that. And you, Lady DJ, impress me. Nah, I'm just an order picker in a warehouse. Don't give up your job until you can do your tunes. I'm like, I love the humour, direct and looking right into my eyes when she was speaking to me. How is your bread? Just how you liked it, to your satisfaction? Yeah, not bad. So you'll be making breakfast in the morning? Why? Who's coming to breakfast? Knowing damn well what she meant. Fancy a can of Newcastle Brown? Yeah, why not? Nuki Brown sounds good. Fine, they're in the fridge. Stretch your legs, it will do you good. Glasses are in the cupboard over the sink. Chop, chop. I love that sound when you open a cold can. It's never the same as when it's warm. Chink of glasses, cheers. Just one thing. I hope we're swapping phone numbers tomorrow, because I'm telling you now, you will not be getting your full English breakfast, just black pudding and toast, I said, winking and smiling. What's your taste in music? Pretty open about music. UB40, Pet Shop Boys. A lot of good music around in the 90s. She banged on some UB40. She noticed I liked David Bowie, Bob Marley, and commented, it's going to be a long night then. Well, I hope so. That's the plan. The night progressed into becoming more open and personal about our lives. She came from a hard-working middle-class family, only child. Her parents were not religious, just working-class people. Her father was a Tory, Bad start, I thought, Thatcherite. Not that I will be meeting him, so no problem in that department. Her mother worked in sales, and her old fella was a car mechanic with his own little business. She had an okay life until she became open to both her parents about her gender. It was difficult in the beginning, but in the end, they accepted who she was and gave her the support. But sometimes there were hurdles to cross along the way, not pleasant, but eventually overcome. In the 90s, it was common knowledge that trans women existed before, in the late 70s, but not to the level it is today in 2023. They were not as open in society and were still subject to violence and abuse like today, and in some countries even worse. Lisa was open at work and in society, but not without its costs. Like a lot of verbal abuse if she took the bus or trains. In the 90s, society thought every man in conventional feminine clothes was a transvestite, which still happens today in some cases, but that's not always the case. She had not experienced violence, but she had been followed a few times after leaving work, and that did scare her very much at times. I took my hat off to her because I had not left home many times as Samantha, and when I had taken a taxi into town, the taxi drivers were great, a little bit frisky, a little bit cheeky, but at times only for fun. Well, at least most of them anyway. She was a loner and did not like to get close to people outside of the gay community because of the trust most of the times. When personal questions were asked about her gender and she was not prepared to discuss her life outside of the circle, and found people became agitated and bigoted. She loved tennis, Wimbledon, watching the Olympic Games, swimming, horse jumping, and steeplechase. She wasn't a fussy eater, liked most things, but hated the smell of garlic. Her style was basic: jeans, blouses, sneakers, and light makeup. She loved bangers and mash with gravy and fried onions, and her all-time favourite was Yorkshire puddings with gravy and boiled onions. I make great Yorkshire puddings, Lisa, with a big smile on my face. Well, I hope they're better than the DJ gigs, winking at me. Am I really that bad? No, not at all. I just know you take the bait, brown eyes. I went to fetch another 2 cans. I don't usually share my gnocchi, but I will make an exception seeing it's you. I said at the present moment in time, she was not looking for a fast partner or was sexually active, but would love to meet a good friend within a circle and know there would be trust, openness, and the support for each other. Money was not a big issue. Not like she had to have loads. As long as she could live comfortably, socialise, and on a sensible level, pay her bills and live a comfortable life. I love your way of thinking, girl. It doesn't get better than that. And a holiday once a year. She wasn't much of a girl into travelling abroad. She loved the outdoor life and she loved the fresh air, away from the hustle and bustle of city life. She was not into politics, just a normal girl with normal interests. I like what I was hearing big time. What about you, Brown Eyes? This name is now growing on me. I think, she trying to tell me something? I explained it was different for me with my parents. My mother was and still is the biggest support in my life and me as Samantha. My father was totally for smashing it out of my head and my body. She was shocked to hear I had gone through electro treatment at a young age and did not know it existed. My life in boarding school, in Germany, my teenage years, and the fact I left home at 16 years old. And even more shocked when I told her I had served in an infantry battalion in the UK and done tours of Northern Ireland. She didn't believe I served in the army, so I thought, I'll wait 10 minutes and say I need to go to the ladies' room and fetch my albums from my wardrobe. Excuse me. I'll be back in a second. I'm just off to pay a visit. And I came back with about 10 albums. Where would you like to start? They were my army photos and my years in my battalion and my island tours. I gave them to her, telling her, feel free and ask any questions. She came across a group of us ready to go out on patrol. Faces canned up, weapons, bulletproof vests. Which one are you? She asked. Yeah, it's not easy, is it? And it's hard to believe. Come and sit on the sofa with me, Samantha. Ah, so you do remember my name then? The photo was of myself, Decker, Sten, Dixie, George, and Chris, who was the commander. We were working and based from a police station in Strabane. We were going out on a 4-day patrol and laying up at night, just observing movement, housing, cars, people, and passing this information on at the end of our patrol. I can't tell which is you, Samantha. You all look the same. Your faces with green and brown paint. It's not paint, Lisa. It's camouflage cream. It breaks the silhouette of our faces and removes any shine from our skin. And our hands are the same. So which one is me, Lisa? I will give you a clue. Look at our rifles. Which one is different? This took a bit of time. That one, Samantha. Yes, that's me. On my weapon, I had an IWS, an individual weapon sight. This made night turn into day, but in green. When you look through it, wow, I would never have believed it, Samantha. We all had different roles and we all changed different roles at different times. That night, I was a marksman. Sten was a GPM gunner. George was a medic. Dixie was a radio operator. Decker was a photograph man. And Chris was the commander. We were a fast team and worked as a team throughout our tour. I think what was a shock for Lisa was the fact I was covered in tattoos and was living my life as a transgender woman on a daily basis at every opportunity. There were many fascinating photos to look at, and the more she looked, the more she was intrigued that this was even possible, that LGBTQ even existed in the military. But it did, and I know Samantha was not the only one in her battalion. She moved on to the tattoos. Was it a macho thing in the military? For most guys it was, but in my case, mine was to try and seek my father's attention into accepting me as Samantha. My father had more tattoos than me, but the more rejection I received, the more ink appeared on my body as self-harming to the point of attention seeking. To this day, in 2023, I have 6 tattoos that have meaning to my life. The other 24 have no meaning as such. Tattoos were not Lisa's thing, but she did not object to them, although she did not have any herself. I expressed how great it must have been to have both parents supporting her, even though it took a while. In the end, it happened to her, but like she said earlier, it had its problems in the beginning, but were overcome. But time had moved on. When this was a process for me at a young age, 20 years on, and maybe a little more acceptance from society, I guess for good and bad reasons. Genuine people who want to learn more and try to understand, and those just to feed more hatred. We went into a lot of questions that night about Samantha, and the biggest shock was electrotherapy, known now as conversion therapy, just a posher word for the misuse of human rights. She asked me what I thought the reason was for my father's response and actions towards me, and my lack of father figure in my life. Before I go into that, I said, I can always remember my father on more than one occasion saying to me that the day I turn 18, I would no longer be his responsibility. But I didn't stay around long enough to let that happen, so it was not that important. As the night moved on, the topic arose of having or wanting a partner. As for me, Lisa, I'm not at this present moment in time looking for a fast partner. I still have things to deal with and overcome issues from my military life and my tours of Northern Ireland. Mainly my last tour of active duty in Northern Ireland from the end of 83 until 87, which, apart from one or two other special units, was not a normal tour. For normal infantry battalions, 6 months or 18 months was a normal tour for infantry battalions. Anything over that time was something you volunteered for and could not be pushed or forced upon you to do in the military or as a soldier. So I had ghosts in my life that I needed to overcome, accept and come to terms with knowing both sides of the fence. The grass was not any greener for the Catholic population than it was for soldiers, and horrible deeds were done on both sides. There was very much hatred. The Catholic population calling us an invading force of their country, an occupation and suppression of the Catholic community in all 32 counties. We were soldiers who were purely there to uphold the law, civil order, and to support the RUC police, the Royal Ulster Constabulary. However, if you wore green and you carried a weapon and you were sent by the government, soldiers were seen as a legitimate target and there to kill and to be sent home in a box. Male or female soldiers all were included. There was no preference who they killed. What do you struggle with, Samantha? You don't have to tell me. If it's private, I respect that. And maybe it's something you want to overcome by yourself. A problem I have now, Lisa, is an issue of many things. From sleepless nights, flashbacks, both daytime and nighttime, are an ongoing problem in my life at this moment. And after reflecting back, what good came from the conflict on both sides, if any, the hatred, the killing on all sides, all families who lost loved ones, friends, But at the end of the day, it was a meaningless conflict with a high cost paid by all to overcome. By a Thatcherite government at that time, the biggest problem is now believing that of over 300,000 who served in Ireland from 1969 until 1998, that is many that endured the same lies from the government and suffer with guilt today. 1,300 who never came home. When you are 17 and 18, Lisa, and you come into an institution, you are first broken down as an individual and then built up to a brainwash killing machine for the government. And this is done gradually throughout your training, progressing and following you to your battalion. And it's hard to live with the knowledge today that the sole purpose of the government, even today, is being radicalized, but in a lawful way, because it justifies and is sanctioned by the British government that you can take another human being's life, because it is justified by the government. Do I run around like a maniac? No, I don't. I just can't erase things that have happened and I've been a part of. These are things that will never leave me, Lisa. I believe as long as I'm alive. So maybe now for me is not the time to think about having a partner. However, that said, one day I do have a big desire to find a partner. However, it will never be a male partner. I don't date, sleep, or indulge in sexual play with males. Do I hate men? No, not at all. Do I disrespect men? There are many good men out there, and I knew many in the military. I have always been attracted to women. That is, and will always remain, my sexual preference until my last breath. I love everything about women, and I love that they are much stronger and more understanding than men in many ways. Have I met females and slept with females, both straight and bi? Yes, I have. As you well as me, Lisa, understand the circle we live in. Many think we as trans are under the same label as transvestites. That cross-dressers, drag queens, and so on. But there are big differences between the groups. Many are inquisitive as to the lives we live as trans and portray to society. Many heterosexual women see it as a challenge and believe they are just dating and sleeping with a gay man who has a fetish for female clothing and going back to being a man on Sunday evening, ready for another week with the lads. It's not the case. Many heterosexual women have the same opinion about gay men. It becomes a challenge for them to get them into bed, to try and prove they are not gay men, but usually end up with egg on their face. I have met and slept with bisexual women. Yes, for them, it's a power game, not in the pub or a club, but when it comes to the bedroom and sex. Then it becomes a power role and domination in sexual play. They see you as having a penis which fulfills their sexual fantasy, and usually they know what they like, what they want, and how you will deliver. Trust me on that. It's the living and learning process, as I like to call it. But to answer your question, no, I don't have a fast partner. And at this time, I'm not looking for one. But like you, a good loyal friend to confide in, be open, and have full trust. And you know, Lisa, in this circle, they are hard to find. There is a lot of short-term relationships, mistrust, cheating, lies, and deceit within the circle. Do I love sexy feminine underwear? What woman doesn't? Do I love stockings, suspender belts, lace bras, lace corsets? Yes, I do. And my favourite colour in the bedroom is white. As for my play partner, I love red. It's such a powerful statement as a female and almost dominant in a statement of its own. Am I totally submissive in the bedroom? If I'm being honest, I think that's where I find my comfort zone and feel at ease with myself. Do I have a preference for dress code out of the bedroom? I love to see women out in society. I love to see women in suits, black or grey, white blouses, open neck, heels or loafers. To me, this is sending a statement to male chauvinist pigs who look down on women, deprive them of equal rights, and still believe a woman belongs at home and has no place in a workplace. I also find a woman in a suit a big sexual turn on. So how about you, Lisa? What do you look for and what excites you about your partner? First of all, Samantha, I'm not sexually active at this moment in time, although, like you, I know my gender. Is my sexual preference a man, a woman? Am I bisexual? At this moment in time, that is something I'm not struggling with, but find I am being drawn to men and women. I consider experimenting with both to see which way I go, and my true preference of a sexual partner and who I would feel comfortable living with in a relationship. Am I dominant in sex play? Not being sexually active, it is something that appeals to me. Chemistry is something that appeals and excites me. I believe it can open many doors with a correct partner in more ways than one. I love the thought of just naked skin and two bodies embracing, exploring every curve. But I don't have a problem with a woman partner wanting to express or being feminine in sex play at all. I know that I would like a partner who enjoys long foreplay. This is something I hope to find in a partner if and when it occurs. Not just a rumble and tumble between the sheets. I often dream of sex play with a long build-up, flirting, touching, teasing, caressing, playing hard to get. Oh, you mean a bit like my telephone number? The night asked at the party when we spoke. She just smiled. Yeah, I guess so. But you do have beautiful eyes. There are many stories behind your eyes, both painful and beautiful. A beautiful combination to hold a big part of your life. Coming back to my preferences, I often think about showering together, the soaping of each other's bodies, with meaning and gentleness, sharing a bathtub with lots of bubbles and candles. There are many things I think and fantasize about, Samantha. I love women to be feminine, take pride in their appearance, and at the best of times, possess good manners and respect others. Do you want a vodka, Lisa? Yeah, why not? The atmosphere is good, the music and the company. It was a fish supper, girl. Your chips with scraps and how I buttered your bread. A dangerous combination, but better than the cheesy chat-up line. She just smiled. Have you got any Lionel Richie, Samantha? No, but I have some Tina Turner, a lot of Motown, if you like that, and a Jam. Then bang on some Tina Turner. Tina Turner, it was to be. Can I put my legs up, Samantha? Pushing your luck now, girl. Chips, Newcastle Brown, vodka, Tina Turner. Go on then, why not? I got my limits, you know, I said, winking at her. Sure, I would like that, Lisa. Just throw them up. She had very petite feet, which is unusual for trans women. It's usually a giveaway sign, along with our fingers. But she actually had thin fingers and quite long, not short and stubby. She looked very feminine. I was a little envious when it comes to the natural look as a female. She didn't have to work hard to capture natural beauty, and she didn't have to heavy makeup, something I loved about her. One would have to look hard before deciding whether she was cis or a trans female. A lot of trans women are lucky when it comes to this. She was also well educated and achieved all her grades at school. Not like me. I had no interest or meaning in school, and it had no place in my life. We were two different girls with two different backgrounds. I felt very comfortable in her presence and at ease, and I wasn't going to sit all night with my arms by my side like a lemon. Lisa felt at ease and had more obvious with her statements and body language. It was getting late into the morning. Not that the birds were singing, but it would not be too long before that happened. Another hour, maybe. I sat and gently rubbed her feet. She loved that. She would close her eyes, continuing to hold a conversation and softly singing to Tina Turner. I think eventually we both fell in and out of our conversation, trying to hide the fact that we were tired and fighting back not to yawn. But in the end, we both succumbed to the late night, early hours of the morning, and something had to give. I lifted her feet gently and went to my bedroom and got some blankets and 2 pillows. I lifted her head gently and covered her with 2 blankets. I kissed her on the forehead and thanks for a great evening. She opened one eye. Thank you, brown eyes. We can forget breakfast, let's call it brunch instead. If you wake up before me, Lisa, tea with 2 sugars and milk. Sleep well. I turned off the lights and headed off for bed. As soon as my head hit the pillows, I just crashed like lights out, as we say. I awoke to cupboard doors opening and closing, turned over and looked at the clock. It was about 2 o'clock. I had slept like a baby. Daylight was coming through the curtains, and I was contemplating whether to get up or just fester in bed for the rest of the day. What are you looking for, Lisa? Tea bags, where are they? Excuse me. In a jar on the kitchen bench. And mine's with 2 sugars and milk, stirred anti-clockwise. Huh? I'm just kidding. We kept exchanging banter and funny comments. Then she had a shower and I just sat on the sofa relaxing. I love radio leads on a Sunday. It was just soft music from the 60s, up-to-date chart music. This was my usual Sunday, but when alone, I loved just sitting in my underwear, a baggy blouse, and a total chill-out day. She came out of the shower. It was strange to see her with wet hair tied back in a ponytail, but something I could get used to, no problem. She said she was starving, so I started making brunch. We were chatting and teasing each other. The music was good, the humor was good, and the conversation just flowed with ease. Right, girl, are you ready to taste the world's best omelette You can't find one like this, so good in Leeds. We sat across from each other, just smiling. What are you thinking about, Samantha? Yeah, it's a great omelette. I'm just kidding. I'm thinking about last night, and not for a minute expected you to accept my invitation home. But I'm glad you did. What's on your mind? I enjoyed the company, the atmosphere, and I felt relaxed in your company. We enjoyed our meal. You can make that another day, Samantha. Oh, so you want to visit again then? Yes, very much so. That's cute. Thank you for the nice message, and that's nice to know. Off we went to the living room. Who's having the sofa, Lisa? We can share, Samantha. Do you want the inside or the outside, Lisa? I can lay on the outside, Samantha. The afternoon was just spent chilling out. Where do you live in Leeds, Lisa? Headingley, not far from the cricket ground. I rent a basement flat. It's okay. The opposite side of the city to me, living in Beeston, and a stone's throw away from Ellen Road, the home of Leeds United. But cricket was not my thing, and football was not Lisa's either. What time do you plan on going home? A bus or a taxi? I'm not in a hurry. Her wet ponytail was like the Chinese water torture drop on my forehead, so I tucked it inside the bathrobe. We just had a normal conversation, friends, hobbies, clothes, makeup, holidays, the future, work, Leeds as a city. Lisa being a Yorkshire girl from birth, but loving the idea of travelling abroad and live for a while, just for the experience and the little adventure and time away from family. As for me, at the present moment in time, I was happy where I was, but music out of England was still a big dream for me. I think at some stage we nodded off. Not for long, just the night before catching up. By this time, it was about 7:30, 8ish in the evening. The buses were like anywhere else in the UK on a Sunday, on the hour, every hour. Leeds on a night could be a very unsavoury place to venture in the dark. No different to any other city, but not as bad as some as Manchester or maybe London. I was thinking, this girl needs to start thinking about getting home. But at the same time, I didn't want her to go home. I think we were both enjoying each other's company. I will give it half an hour and maybe ask her what her plans are about getting home. Did she want me to take her to the bus? Did she want to go alone? Or was she comfortable on her own? So I offered her another cup of tea. She accepted. And then I asked whether she wanted me to take her to the bus home. And she replied, can I stay here for the night? If you want to, yes. I can make up the sofa for you again, but I leave at 7 o'clock for work, so we can leave together. It's up to you. The time was moving on, and at 10, I'm off to bed soon, Lisa. I can fetch your bed in. You can make it up when you're ready. Help yourself if there's anything you want, and feel at home. She thanked me, so I lay in bed thinking about the weekend, just tossing and turning, just trying to sleep. It took what felt like forever, but I guess suddenly it was lights out. I just love that expression. At some stage in the night, I awoke to a gentle shaking. Samantha, I didn't have a clue what time it was. What was I thinking? Is it my turn behind the gun again? Am I back in the military? Am I on exercise in Salisbury Plain? I just didn't have a clue. When I got my senses together, Lisa was sat on my bed. I can't sleep. Count sheep, that usually works. I can't sleep. Can I get into bed with you? I sat up and put my bedside light on. Are you serious, Lisa? Yes. Can I get into bed with you? I was thinking this is a dream, and in the morning I would find her on the sofa, but no, it wasn't a dream. Sure, if you're comfortable with that, hop in, but don't nick all the quilts. I turned off the light and tried to focus on what had just happened and was happening. Did it feel uncomfortable sharing my bed? I had slept with women, both straight and bi women. Why should this be different? Because it was Lisa. Because it was my first experience sharing my bed with a trans woman. All I did know is that it felt right. It felt comfortable. It felt very comfortable. The next thing was the alarm was going 05:30. I'm waking up, cuddled into Lisa with my arm over her. Good morning. Time to wake up and think about the day. Did you sleep well? Yes, very well. I had a shower and made a breakfast. Did that just happen, Lisa? We just shared the same bed for the night. Yes, we did. But I don't make a habit of jumping into bed with all other women. That's not what I asked. How do you feel about it? It was nice. I liked when you cuddled up to me. I missed the contact, the feeling close. It's been lonely. And you? I'm thinking of ringing in sick and going back to bed. What about you? Take the day off. Yeah, let's do it. And to answer your question about what I think, well, I didn't expect it, but I'm glad it happened. We both rang in sick. It was hilarious. Could not stop laughing. I've lost my place. We could not stop laughing and went back to bed. I think we awoke about 4 o'clock. We made something to eat. Lisa sorted her things out, and before she left my flat, we exchanged numbers. Then I walked her to the bus stop. I walked to the bus stop with her. I asked if she was okay alone or if she wanted company on the bus. Sorry, I can't stop thinking about when we phoned in sick. She asked me to take the bus with her as she would feel safer, and I gladly did that. We got off at the train station. I walked her to the next bus stop, waited until her bus came. We cuddled. She said, I will ring you. That's nice. Don't lose my number. I won't. I crossed the road and took the next bus home. That's one of the first parts that I'll be reading. So, yeah. I hope you get something out of it. Have a beautiful evening.